my friend, and welcome to the Wednesday night satsang. We'll start with a little bell. Welcome. You know, we all have to work in our life. We all have work and things that we do, right? Things that we do in our life. Even monks and nuns in monasteries, they still have to work. There's still work to do. They have to break ground for a new garden, prepare for the next retreats. If it's a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat and it's a big organization, a big monastery, we sort of give our lives to giving service to people and helping people, help relieve people of suffering and helping people wake up. So there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of retreats. We have to, work on the website and do things like that. There's always something to do. The difference in a monastery from the way most people live, a Zen monastery anyways, is that there's time when we're not doing anything. We're just sitting. We're just meditating. We're just being. There's time scheduled for just being throughout the day. No matter how busy our schedule is, there's always time for just being. In fact, every 15 minutes, a bell goes off and we take a moment for at least a few breaths to just be, to get out of the doing mind and just be. This is very important to do, to have this moment of noble silence, to just be, to let our thoughts clear away, to let our doing clear away, and to just be. I mean, to many people in the world, this seems lazy and pointless and useless. But in fact, this is the only place where we get wisdom from. This is the only way we can become wise. It's the only way we can know who we are and what we're doing in this world and what this world is and what we are. If we're always busy doing and thinking, as most people are, we miss this. We become informed. On Facebook, you can read many, many different things, posts that people write, beautiful things that Buddha has said, Ramana Maharshi, other wise awakened teachers have said. We can absorb this information and take this information like a computer and store it in there. And a lot of this information is very good. It's useful to do this. So this makes us informed, but it doesn't make us wise. These awakened teachers and masters that we've been reading, Buddha, Ramana, and people like this, they're wise. They're wise because they spent time in this stillness, in this pure being, where the mind is silent enough for wisdom to arise by itself. If we simply sit in silence, this wisdom will arise for us too, because it is the very nature of our being. But when our minds are so busy with doing, and we're so busy with doing, we become distracted from this, and we don't realize it. Just as we don't realize this great underlying peace that is always here as our very nature. We can be searching for peace and think, oh, I wish I had some peace. My life is so miserable. I'm so filled with suffering. I just wish I had some peace. Without realizing that we are peace. That peace can never be separate from us. But this is something that we realize when we just sit. When we just be silent. We realize truth. We realize what's always here. So this is the value of doing this. It's the value of having a meditation practice. That at least in the morning and at night, every day, you spend some time in meditation, some time in just being. Let the mind go, no matter how it fights and says, no, this is useless. I have something very important to do. Why should I waste this time? I could be watching television. Or whatever it wants to tell you. Spend some time in just being. Spend some time in what we call, in the Buddhist tradition, noble silence. This is one of the most important practices that you can do, and perhaps the very most important spiritual practice that you can ever do in your entire life, is noble silence. Why? Because that is where wisdom is. That is where wisdom comes from. That is where truth comes from. If your mind is always busy and you're always occupied searching for truth, even searching for wisdom, even reading all the great spiritual books, if your mind is always occupied with this, you will miss what you're looking for. You will miss what you're searching for, which can only be found in this noble silence. And it will always be found in this noble silence. It may take time and practice before your mind can quiet down enough so that you can experience this. What it's like to be free of this incessant thinking, this incessant chattering of the mind and commenting of the mind, what it is like to really be free of this. That's the practice of noble silence. First off, we practice being silent outside. We don't speak. We don't engage in conversations. We don't read. We don't look at the computer. We shut off our phone. We just sit in silence. And as anyone who knows, if you remember beginning your meditation practice, or if you've just started a meditation practice, you know there's a lot of challenges, because when the outside world is quiet, it doesn't have to be totally quiet. These cicadas and everything, they have nothing to do to disturb you if your mind is still. But when you silence your outside activity, when you're not doing, but you're just sitting, you make time for meditation. It doesn't matter what you have to do. Bills that need paying, planning. You take this time to be still, to just sit, to not do anything. And when you give yourself this time, the challenges that come up in the beginning are that you realize how busy your mind is. You've stopped, but your mind hasn't. You're sitting, not doing anything, and your mind is busy as can be. An onslaught of thoughts just keep pouring over you, and you realize how busy your mind is. And you also see that some of these thoughts trigger you and create a story and make you want to get up and stop sitting. I need to do something. Oh, this is very important. Just a moment. I'll just go and take care, make this phone call, then I'll come back and sit again. Something like that will come up. Something will pull you. Or you'll be sitting there, just sitting, but your mind will be creating these stories about things. You'll be paying attention to this, and one thought will lead to another thought, will lead to another thought, and pretty soon all you're doing is sitting here fantasizing and thinking about what your day is going to be. So it's a practice to stop, to let those thoughts go. And inevitably it does happen. It's a practice and a discipline. And you may think in the beginning, oh, I can't do that. That's way too hard. There's way too many thoughts. I'm totally addicted to my thoughts. But you're really not. You're just undisciplined. You've never learned how to discipline your attention. Your attention immediately goes to thoughts. And so when you sit for long enough, you develop a discipline by itself. It just happens. All you have to do is sit there, not be pulled away. Just stay. Like a dog, stay. Don't get up and move, stay. You discipline your dog, you need to discipline yourself. You need to discipline your mind and your attention. So just stay. When the thoughts are having an onslaught and telling you this and that, stay anyway. And eventually the thoughts will slow down. There'll be more space between thoughts. This monkey mind swinging from thought to thought will slow down. And this happens simply because you develop a practice of sitting every day. And slowly it develops. Slowly there's more space. And in this space, you start realizing things that you've never realized before. You become aware of things that you were never aware of before. Like this great feeling of peace that's just here. You didn't notice that, did you? When your mind was so busy. You were looking for it. You thought some new information or something that Buddha said or Ramana said will give you this peace. You didn't realize that it was already here. That it was always here. That's what the Buddha realized. That's what Ramana realized. This peace that's always here. And you may realize something else, that you've been chasing after these goals all your life, these things that you felt you desperately needed. And suddenly in this moment of quiet and stillness, you feel absolutely 100% content. You don't want anything to be different than it is in this moment. It is absolutely perfect. All the problems you thought you had don't seem to be here. And as you enter more deeply into this experience, it can feel like absolute bliss. Just being. Just being, that's all. Absolute bliss. And where before you felt you were a separate being in the universe that had to do, that had to accomplish, that had to survive in this world that is other than you. Suddenly that feeling of separation starts falling away. And you don't feel separate anymore. You feel this immense love for all, which is what the experience of not feeling separate anymore is, love. And you realize this too has always been here. Your entire life that you were struggling and searching for love, this love has always been here. Not because someone said they loved you. It has always been here. It doesn't depend on another person or anything at all. It's just the nature of being, the nature of your consciousness, of what you are. And in this way, you begin to understand yourself and the world. You become wise. Not because you've collected a lot of information that has nothing to do with real wisdom. Real wisdom is truth, the direct realization of truth, the direct realization of what you are and the world is. And wisdom is the benefit of noble silence. So I'm going to recommend to you a homework practice. It's just something to say. But a practice of meditation, a practice where you spend time, some time during the day where you spend whatever you can. Begin with 20 minutes, work up to an hour in the morning and at night. There's some time during the morning and at night when you can do it. You may have to get up earlier if you have to go to work. But it's a wonderful way to set your day in this peace and stillness. And it's a wonderful way to discipline yourself to have this discipline of your attention, of your mind. So your thoughts are not pulling you around from branch to branch like a monkey swinging on branches. That you can let the thoughts be without engaging with them. And over time, you will become less and less interested in them. And they'll less and less bother you. You will experience less suffering in your life. Because this is caused by your thoughts, not by what you think. Not by what you think is happening, but by your thoughts about it. And as this wisdom grows in you, you will trust this wisdom of truth more than your thoughts, more than the illusion of your thoughts. You'll come to see that these thoughts are illusion. They're what create this dream world. And that there is something much more here. And then that something much more is you. Not what you imagine you are. Something far, far more than that. All this comes from noble silence. If you can arrange your day, and I know you can, one day out of the week, you can arrange to have a day of noble silence. If you live in a family with children and a spouse, they've already given you time to meditate. You told them, this is my time for meditation. Don't come in here and ask me for anything during this time. Just give me this 1 hour to have this time to meditate. And they may, you got to work out things with other people, but eventually they will give you this space. If not, you may have to find a room somewhere else where you can do it. But you can do this. And likewise, when they've given you this space, you can spend one day a week in silence like this. And the benefits you receive from this are beyond anything I can tell you. This noble silence is the way to wisdom. And as your mind becomes quieter, more still, and there's more peace in you. You find that there's more peace in your family too. It affects other people. It benefits other people as well. And they will realize this as well. Some of them may want to join you in silence. But don't force it. Just allow it to happen. And then as you do this, the longer you spend, you will see, the longer you spend in silence. Why people do silent retreats. They offer silent retreats in almost every large Zen center and monastery will offer silent retreats a couple of times a year that you can participate in. It's a good thing to do this. Everything is organized, food is all done, everything is organized for this silence. It's a little more challenging to arrange your life for this to happen, especially if you have a busy life. But this you can do too. You may want to go from a day a week to once a month or every couple of months spending a weekend, a 3-day weekend in silence. And then eventually you do silent retreats in the monasteries or Zen centers that are around where you are, where they're offered. And then eventually maybe in your own life you do this. I believe that one of the most important things that had to do with my own awakening was the extended silent retreats that I spent. At one point, a year like this. A year living in this great peace and bliss and love. Connection to all existence. I know the mind may say all kinds of things like, oh my God, I'd be so lonely. I need contact. I need entertainment. I need this. I can't do it. That's just the mind. That's just the mental noise. You only know by trying. You only know by doing it and seeing for yourself. So start small. And see. Thich Nhat Hanh would always tell us on these silent retreats, there would be many people, maybe 800, 900, 1,000 people would come to these retreats who would have to rent like a whole college campus to do these on. So many people came. And he would always say, you come here to hear my Dharma talks and my teaching and to see me, but the truth is, it's the silence. That's the benefit, not my Dharma talks, not what I'm saying. It's the silence, this noble silence. Because on these retreats, it's silent, right? So you eat in silence. Everything is done in silence. You can have this it's very small pad of paper where if you really have to say something or if it's an emergency, you can write it down on there and give it to somebody. But you don't really want to do that. It's a pain to write in this tiny little notebook. Some people would be like writing page after page, and then eventually they would stop because it's pointless. It's just your mind chattering, and it wants so much to chatter that it writes stuff. But, unless you're dying or someone's dying and you have to leave or something, you don't need to write anything. You can just stay in this silence. You can just immerse yourself in this silence. You can just sink in and bathe in this noble silence. And it is beautiful in a group because it helps the transmission of the other people that have been practicing much longer than you and are really, it's easier for them to immerse deeply into this noble silence. It helps you too. Just as satsang helps you, to be able to experience that I have spent a long time in noble silence. It's really, immersed, it's my life, really. It's immersed into my life. How I see the world, how I act in the world. When I act and do things, there is this noble silence behind all of it because I've spent so long in it. It's wonderful. And any wisdom that I have, it comes from this noble silence, not from my thoughts, not from my knowledge, but from this noble silence itself. And even here, often, halfway through, or hopefully earlier in the satsang, it's just the noble silence speaking. It's beautiful, isn't it? It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's this noble silence that's here, universal. The very foundation of all existence. And no matter how busy your mind is now, this noble silence is in you. And when you make your outside world accommodating to this, and the busyness slows down, just sitting in meditation is stopping your physical busyness, isn't it? You're not doing anything then. You don't have your bills before you and you're paying. That's not meditation. You leave all of that alone and you just sit. You just sit. And it's true if you have a busy house or you live on a busy street, there may be police sirens going by. Don't worry about that. You're looking for the inner silence. That's the noble silence. It's not up to you to silence the world. You don't have to put leather around the entire planet. You can just put them on your feet. You can just wear shoes. You don't have to put leather over the whole planet. You don't need to make the whole planet quiet. You just need to be quiet. That'll take care of the world. The world will become silent when you become silent. All the sounds of the world will just be, to you, silence, expressions of this noble silence. When you begin to experience this as pure joy, rather than the difficulty and challenges of beginning the practice, when that becomes easier and you spend more time with it, you will have moments, even just in your hour meditation, where you sink into this silence and find it this great beauty, bliss, love in this silence. You're beginning to realize something that's always here. You're beginning to realize the benefit of this and reap the benefits of your practice. The practice of noble silence. You can see in the world, it's social media is a great reflection of the human mind and the world. I mean, even in people that are seeking enlightenment and wisdom and spiritual wisdom, awakening, that there is so much noise, so many opinions, so much knowledge, so much mind food. And the truth is that everything every one of these people is searching for is found in noble silence. Is found in their practice of noble silence, a practice so that you can experience it. It's not going to come just like that. Satsang can help. You can feel moments of it here, moments of it in the silent transmissions. But it needs to be a practice for you that you arrange your life to have. You arrange room for your life to have this. And in order to do this, if you have a very busy life, you need to make this the most important thing so that you will make room for it. And then after a while, you'll see why this was such an incredibly good thing to do, why this was so beneficial for you, your family, your work, everything that you do in your life. Because more and more you can bring your heart to the world in wisdom, in true wisdom. And the world needs this. Your family needs this. Everything needs this. It's so simple, really, but it's a question of doing. It's a question of being. It's a question of arranging your life so that you can have this time to just be and slowly allow yourself to be silent enough to let your mind, your thoughts, stop distracting you. And to begin to realize what's behind all that mind chatter, what's behind these thoughts, what's behind this doing. The wisdom of your own being and the being of everything else. A truth that is far more than any thought can ever be. And then you will know Buddha and Ramana, not as something that you've read, not as information, not as an opinion, not as something that you believe about them, but you will see through their eyes, feel through their heart. You will be them. You will realize that you've never been separate from them or anyone else. You no longer have to read the words of the Buddha. You are this wisdom. You are this noble silence and stillness from where all true wisdom comes.